April 26, 2021. Welcome. My name's Tom Yakopin. This is the Tom Yakopin podcast. It's Monday. Actually, this won't be live until tomorrow, Tuesday, but I just survived my birthday weekend. I did it. That's right. I did it. I turned 60, the big 60. So, there's hope for those of you who are looking at getting older and say to yourself, man, what's this going to be like? It's awesome. It's awesome, man. And I'm sporting one of the many nice things that my friends and family got me. This is a T-shirt from Nelson Drum Shop in Nashville. Apparently my son who made the trip. Thank you very much. Came up, we had a weekend getaway with the kids, my daughter Audrey, Alan, Jen, Shernice, Caitlin, Josh, the love of my life, Melissa, Neil. We all had a big party with my grandkids at Oglebay Park. It was fantastic. And this was one of the things I got, and I'm sporting it today, Nelson Drum Shop. So a shout out to them. Neil said it's awesome. He loves it. And thanks to everybody for all the kind words and celebration. But today I want to talk with you about something that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's kind of a continuation of a subject we got over into several weeks ago pertaining health care in America and the importance of price transparency in healthcare. And in fact, if you didn't get a chance to see that podcast, I would highly recommend you take a look at it, because we did a deep dive where we actually went to the website of several local hospitals, including St. Clair and then Heritage Valley, and looked at this new business of price transparency and these hospital systems coming out and actually being forced, okay, which tells you how happy they are about it. They're actually being forced, if you will, to show their hand in terms of what procedures cost, whether it's cash pay or what they have negotiated with various insurance companies, whether it's the big box names that you know and trust or what have you. But certainly we got a lot of traction on that podcast with well over 1,000 views in a week, and it's continuing to circulate and people are learning from it. And I got a lot of positive comments about it. So I thought along those lines that we might continue the discussion and talk a bit about two organizations that I think have been pivotal, very, very key in promoting this necessary conversation in the United States of America. And that is price transparency, and even maybe the overriding theme, and that is the fact that we need a free market in healthcare, free market. And by the way, if you think that up until now, I've heard people on various blogs that I'm a part of say, there is no free market in healthcare. You can't have a free market in healthcare. The free market in healthcare has failed. That's all a crock of horse feathers. The fact is, we are so far from a free market in healthcare. It's basically seemingly run more like a cartel or a cabal than a free market. That's my opinion, but then again, this is Yakopinion, so it's where I get to speak my truth. But I want to bring your attention to an organization called the Free Market Medical Association. And the Free Market Medical Association, by the way, you can visit them online. We're going to be looking at some of their talking points from the website during the podcast. You can find them online at www.fmma.org, the Free Market Medical Association. And what they are about is an association which promotes transparency in healthcare. And I'm just going to give you a few quotes from the website, and then we'll bounce around here and show you some of the features on the site and what they do to educate, to train, to motivate caregivers, up-and-coming students, and people like me who, frankly, 10 years ago, I knew nothing about this organization. And I really, being in the insurance industry, as I have been for 30 plus years, I really didn't realize the damage that medical insurance or managed care plans, which is the current trend, right, in health insurance, I didn't really realize the damage that these managed care plans were actually a part of. So again, the Free Market Medical Association, this is a free market movement, right, that is gaining steam in America. And this is because of providers, patients, and self-funded employers who believe that changing the way we purchase healthcare services is necessary. And seeking out value-driven healthcare providers is important. Value-driven healthcare providers. And they go on to say that their mission is to unite all the islands of excellence in healthcare and accelerate the speed and growth of the free market healthcare revolution. So again, that's kind of an overview of their philosophy or their vibe, if you will. But some of the nice things that you'll find that are practical and useful, as I just go down a little bit, you will see that they have the Shop Health Marketplace. And the Shop Health Marketplace allows consumers, brokers, people in a self-funded group, whatever. It allows people to find low prices for high quality medical care. Okay, very simple. You can shop FMMA providers. You can learn about various procedures. For example, if I just go in and I were to do neck biopsy, BIOPSY. Let's see what comes up. I think we would find some options in here. But yeah, so this gives you access really to a boatload of information. It's been a while since I've been in here, but again, you can find providers who adhere to the pillars of the Free Market Medical Association, and you can also find price transparency as it relates many of these procedures, including the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, but not only the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, but we're going to visit their site and show you the end result of some of the FMMA's influence and the thinking behind the Free Market Medical Association. So they have the Shop Health feature, and again, a wonderful and very useful tool on their website. Some other things that you will find that they are doing is every year, and this is a big shout out, every year they host an annual conference. Last year, the conference needed to be rescheduled because of the coronavirus. But this year, August 5th through the 7th, 2021, the Free Market Medical Association annual conference or convention is going to be at the Hilton Dallas Plano in Granite Park. And I must tell you, unfortunately, our company had to reschedule our leaders conference from last year to this year, and it literally fell right over top of this date. So I cannot attend. And I've been there the last 3 years in a row, and I must tell you, every year I have tremendous takeaways and a lot of value as a result of being a student, just going and listening, taking notes, meeting people, asking questions, whether it's keynote speakers such as 2 years ago, Dr. Ron Paul, or the many professional caregivers, whether it's Dr. Keith Smith or others who are leading by example in the field of medicine and are teaching others and sharing with others their way of thinking as they really mentor young up-and-coming students and medical professionals. In fact, this year, they are also asking for donations. And one of the things that Dr. Smith and others with the FMMA are doing, and this is sorely lacking, and you don't think about it that often, but medical school is not really prepping future doctors to think like an entrepreneur. And one of the challenges that we'll get into briefly today is that I think a lot of people going into medicine, a lot of young men and women are being groomed through current philosophy, to get your medical degree and go work for a hospital system. But if Dr. Smith were here today, what he would probably say is, oh no, that would be the last thing that I would recommend. And we'll get into some of why he feels that way. But some of the other things that I find beautiful and very practical is that Dr. Smith and those involved with the Free Market Medical Association are changing lives by educating future doctors to think like an entrepreneur. So again, they are accepting donations to bring students to conference, to expose them to these ideas, and then even bigger ideas and more practical ideas as far as being a medical professional. Again, as you get over into the website, you'll find what their pillars are. And of course, some of the pillars, we'll just visit with you very quickly, that price is not a product. Care in healthcare, price isn't a product, right? Care is the product. Selling access to pricing is anti-free market. And that's a lot of what's going on in your managed care, EPO, PPO, HMO relationship. Again, insurance company, hospital, facilities, providers, all in cahoots. Selling access to pricing is anti-free market. Discount brokers who get paid by selling savings, not transparent. So what they believe is, again, as it relates price, care is the product. And of course, a big part of the philosophy of the Free Market Medical Association is price transparency. So as you're going to see in a moment, when care is presented properly, or solutions to healthcare needs, you're going to see that Dr. Smith and those at the Oklahoma Surgery Center offer very transparent, very easy to understand, and bundled pricing on many procedures that people from all over the United States and even outside of the country are traveling a great distance in some case to get, because the outcomes are great and the cost is very inexpensive. So they talk about price. That again, price is not a product. Care is the product. And of course, value. Value is established when the buyer and the seller agree on a fully disclosed, mutually beneficial price for care. I said this several weeks ago, that only in healthcare do we go into an office or a facility, same-day surgery facility, hospital, emergency room, whatever, and sign on the dotted line, giving people permission to treat and then taking financial responsibility for something that you have no idea what it costs, okay? You don't do that when it comes to clothing, food, housing, cars, anything. Only in healthcare, which is another reason why I believe this absolutely must be addressed and changed. So the Free Market Medical Association promotes price transparency, value, once again, fully disclosing value, and a mutually beneficial price that is agreed upon in transparency. Here's another one, equality. Price equality is the basis of a free market. They go on to say that cash is king, that any willing cash buyer should be offered the same price regardless of any factor. In other words, when we looked several weeks ago at the various and sundry negotiated prices for a particular test or x-ray or surgery, the numbers are all over the place. And again, if you haven't seen that podcast, dig it up and look at it. It's ridiculous. It's insane. Here, what we're saying is that price equality is the basis of a free market. In fact, I would go as far as to say you don't have a market at all when the consumer is not aware of what they're getting and what it will cost them in return in terms of money, right? So the Free Market Medical Association is based upon principles, pillars, again, very clearly outlined. And then as you visit their site, you'll notice events. They do have state chapters. If you are in the medical practice, if you're in the medical field, or like me, you're in the insurance business and you want to clean up the mess that we've created in some respect, this would be a great place to go, a great place to read about, join, and then potentially even look up your local state chapter and consider getting involved in your local state chapter. I tend to speak on behalf of the Free Market Medical Association state chapter here in Pennsylvania, although we're looking for help and as many people that might be interested from any walk of life. If you believe in the goodness and the virtue of reforming, bringing much needed disruption to healthcare, I invite you to reach out to me, or you can reach out to your state chapter through the Free Market Medical Association. Now, what is the end result of the ideals, of the philosophy, of the maxims, the virtues that the Free Market Medical Association and men like Dr. Keith Smith and Jay Kempton, what is the end result of this philosophy when put in action? What does it look like in action? Well, I'm going to shoot right over to another website today, and we're going to visit the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. And by the way, when it comes to free market medicine, these guys in Oklahoma they're leading the pack. In fact, very recently, a friend of mine, one of my associates in Georgia, from the Mighty Well organization, shout out to Mark Whitesides, brought to my attention that Dr. Keith Smith recently was interviewed with Steve Forbes on a podcast, and he went into the amount of money that they're saving people through the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, and really, you know, the good that can come out of scaling this approach to healthcare all across the United States of America. So one of the things, this is how simple it can be. One of the things that you can do is visit their website, Surgery Center of Oklahoma, and what you will notice is the first thing right on the front page, surgery pricing. Click on an area of the body where a surgery or procedure is needed. Use this tool to find a price and request a specialist to contact you. The first thing is, this is simple. It's so simple. Somebody that is basically, you know, a tech moron like me, I can even navigate this page, okay? But, you know, for example, if I just navigate over the face, you will see that, you know, I can pull up complex nasal and facial plastic surgeries, and then I can select various and sundry plastic surgeries, whether it's a septoplasty or a complex septoplasty with valve repair. But what you're going to find is that is very interesting and very unique. Now, again, if you're really looking for care, you would probably want to speak with your surgeon, speak with your specialist here, maybe get CPT codes or get the specific name so that you can accurately go to this website. But what you're going to find is that with just that procedure, with just that that effort that I just put in, I can see that the price for this complex nasal and facial plastic surgery, the septoplasty with valve repair, is going to be $5,800. And what's interesting on their pricing disclaimer is that you know, the prices for the procedures include the facility fee, the surgeon's fee, and the anesthesiologist's fee, okay? So this is pretty much a global, a real price tag as it relates what it is going to cost you. Now, again, a list of what is not included would be diagnostic studies necessary prior to. That would be lab, MRI, x-rays, consultations, etc., hardware, implants, things of that nature. If you needed to stay overnight, the Surgery Center of Oklahoma is primarily, as I understand it, a same-day surgery, although I do believe that it can be arranged where you do stay overnight. But for the most part, and they're very transparent on what the price does not include, but for the most part, when you look up a price here on this website, that is exactly what it is going to cost in terms of the big stuff, the facility fee, surgeon, anesthesiologist. Those are the expensive fees, right? The professional and the facility fees. And I challenge you, friends, listen to me. I challenge you. A friend of mine in the business, now he is now retired, but his daughter is actually a doctor in a large, well-known hospital in the Chicago area. She recently needed a hip replacement. And he was telling me, and again, this is a practicing doctor. I'm sure she had great coverage, right? But imagine, a complete needing a hip replacement, right? She was billed somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000. Now, I don't know if that was before repricing, after repricing, or whatever. And those of you who are looking at the screen now, if that's visible on the podcast, you'll note I just pulled up a hip arthroplasty. That's a total hip replacement. The entire procedure, again, facility, surgeon's fees, anesthesiologist, $15,499. Compare that price with $80,000 at a big box hospital in Chicago. And now you see what can happen by cutting out the administrative bloat. And that's what Dr. Smith often refers to, basically the cost of expensive administrators at so many hospitals running around in $5,000 Brioni suits. And by the way, you wind up paying for that. Whether directly or indirectly through paying premiums and funding insurance plans that are funding this mess. The bottom line, friends, is a lot of the cost of care in our current corporate system, and yes, it's a corporate system, where people are being cajoled, manipulated, feared, or in some cases forced into paying expensive premiums to insurance companies that have secret deals with hospital systems, or in some cases, the insurance company owns the system, or they're one in the same, such as here in Pittsburgh and all around the country. This is a growing phenomenon. So you have a lot of bloat. You have a lot of unnecessary costs that are literally breaking the back of working American people. And here's the other thing. It's not as if the care is any better. In fact, many professionals would contend that exactly the opposite is the case. Many professionals contend that those who are charging the most for procedures in some cases are often the least qualified, and the outcome might not be as good at all as in comparison with the Surgery Center of Oklahoma or places like the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. And thank goodness, more and more doctors are moving out of the corporate model and moving into private practice, such as direct primary care, where it's cash pay. You have more and more imaging centers popping up that are cash pay with transparent prices. More and more surgery centers popping up, which are cash pay. And by the way, when I say cash pay, you can get financing through the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. So imagine, a situation where you might have a high deductible, or maybe your small business self-funds their insurance plan, meaning that you really are all in this together. Wouldn't it make sense to spend $16,000 for your hip replacement rather than $80,000? I mean, when it comes down to it, friends, this is where you and I can make a difference in the healthcare revolution, if you will. And that is by becoming more involved as patients, becoming more involved in the shopping process, if and when it's possible. And by the way, professionals, many have said to me that shopping healthcare is a very real possibility, 7 to 8 out of 10 times. And we've addressed that before, that very rarely do you just wake up one day and you have to go to the hospital and have no control over the outcome of things. Now, there are exceptions to that. Heart, stroke, things of that nature, serious injuries and illnesses. But what you can see here is you can see, very honest and open pricing. I'm doing it one more time here where you can just hover right over the throat here on this body, and you can see that a tongue biopsy, for example, wow, $1,600. That's the whole cost. And again, I'm not going to go into comparison with a local hospital, but I know these guys, and I know the amount of money they're saving consumers day in and day out, week in and week out. And I'll promise you that $1,600 for this procedure is probably significantly less than a major hospital system using insurance here in Pittsburgh, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Boston, or any other place in the United States of America for that reason. So once again, just a shout out to the Free Market Medical Association for the work that they are doing. And I want you, the consumer, to know that organizations like the FMMA and others, they're not the only ones, but organizations like the FMMA realize that we need much needed disruption in the United States of America to rein in the escalating cost of care in the United States. So, if you get a chance, by all means, check them out online, www.fmma.org, the Free Market Medical Association. And if you want to really test it out and see how does this look in real life, then visit the Oklahoma Surgery Center and see what the cost of care is there. And I can tell you, by the way, I've toured that facility 2 times, have spoken with individuals that work there. I have a friend, Kent Long, that's actually had several procedures done there. He traveled a great distance to go there rather than somewhere else, and said, Tom, the care, the professionalism, and of course the cost is fantastic. So kudos to the Free Market Medical Association. Kudos to Oklahoma Surgery Center, Dr. Keith Smith, Jay Kempton for their work, and that of many others who are doing their part to expose the fraud, the waste, and the abuse that is baked into our current managed care and corporate healthcare system. And by the way, there are better ways, and we have some great ideas to share with you in the future. Again, my name's Tom Yakupin. This is the Tom Yakupin Podcast. Like us, choose to subscribe, and if you got something out of this, share it with others. Thanks for joining us, and bye for now. Special thanks to West Penn Life and Health, one of our sponsors. You can find them online at westpennlife.com, specializing in affordable life, health, Medicare, and retirement solutions.